don't know which way it is.
First up, e-bike regulations. Mr. Brown.
I just wondered whether we needed to venture into, looking at maybe regulating e-bikes. I personally feel that we need to, and I've had several people contact me and ask me about whether we had any regulations on them or whether we were planning on doing any regulations on them. So I can say I was going down Colby probably 2 days before I asked for this to be brought up in the 30-mile-an-hour zone in my truck, and I got passed by an e-bike on the sidewalk. So I think we need some kind of regulation for it. I don't know if anybody else has any ideas on it or not.
Does an e-bike follow the same regulations as a regular bike? Where they're not supposed to be on the sidewalk, they're supposed to be in the traffic lane going the same direction?
Well, that's what I would think.
But no.
Yeah, but no, okay.
Yeah, they are under the same regulations, but bicycles are not prohibited on the sidewalk.
Oh, I thought they were.
Only in the downtown because there's a sign, and only because there's a sign. We don't have an ordinance.
Oh, okay.
And I think, Tanya, we talked after I brought this up the last time, and Tanya said there's 2 different grades.
There's
Is
3
there
actually, Scott.
3?
Tanya said to you, by the way. It was Tanya who was talking to you. Not Tanya.
Sorry.
But, no, there's class 1, 2, and 3. They have different, powers and go different rates. I think unless we have, a bike path, on all of our roads, I would not support it because a couple of reasons. One, we have people who, that's their only mode of transportation. And so we're trying to encourage people to be, a little bit carless. And so there's people up in the apartments and things. This is, it's an affordable option for them. And I'll tell you what, I have an e-bike. I haven't ridden last year, but I ride with my grandsons. They love to bike here. They live in Muskegon. I do not bicycle with them on a road without a bike path because I'm afraid somebody's going to hit us. It's not safe. For example, what I typically will do is I'll go from my house down Warner because it has a nice sidewalk, with the boys, but I'm watching. And then I get on the bike path and try to use that. But even coming back on Alice, I do go on the sidewalk, and if people are on the sidewalk, I move off. But I'm not going to have my grandsons going on a road without a bike path.
You have enough common sense to not ride your e-bike 25 miles an hour on a sidewalk.
Well, but they weren't hurting anybody there, were they? I mean, they were probably going from the apartments down to someplace to get some.
I don't care where they were going.
Well,
I mean, they were going over 30 miles an hour on a sidewalk. That's ridiculous.
well, I don't know. I'd have to think about I don't know. Chief, do you know about, I think some of the top ones, go up to like 28 miles an hour, but that's a higher range. And not most people don't have those.
The class 3 can make 35.
Make 35, okay. Yeah. I just think it's an equity issue. There's people who, that's their only mode of transportation.
I just feel they should ride them on the road, not on the sidewalk.
But it's not safe if we don't have a bike path. I mean, if we don't have a place for them to ride. That goes for bicycles and e-bikes.
They have the lane. It's a law. Riding a bike down the road, you have the lane.
That doesn't mean you're not gonna get hit, Scott.
Well, it doesn't, no.
I don't think it's
Doesn't
safe.
mean you're not
That's
gonna get run over by a truck when you go for a walk either.
Two different things. Apples and oranges. No, I just feel like it's an equity issue, and and it's also a safety issue, because if we had bike paths all around town, it'd be different.
I mean, I don't even think they should be allowed on the bike path, but the rail trail. But
most people really pay attention. What I have had more trouble with is these cyclists who go 50 miles an hour and knock you over. Sorry, that's not nice. But no, it's just, most people who are on there for safety reasons. And I see them as really, gearing down and, so I don't know.
Is it considered a motorized vehicle? Or not really?
Depends on what you're doing on it.
Cause there's
No.
electric cars,
No, it's not. It's not considered a motorized vehicle. Yet, you could also get arrested for driving under the influence on a horse and buggy. So, yeah, you probably get arrested for riding an e-bike if you're drunk.
But I mean, as far as riding a bike path, there says no motorized vehicles.
The law specifically allows them on state of Michigan trails,
Oh.
class 1 and 2, or just class 1?
I think one class is allowed, another class is allowed by, if the municipality allows it. But I've just seen a lot of people just using a lot of common sense. If I see a lot of stuff going on when I'm on there, I just really slow down and pay attention. I don't see a problem with it myself, but.
The class 3 is by permit only.
It just, to me, it's a safety issue. I don't wanna be on the road with big vehicles and distracted driving.
Anyone else wanna weigh in on this?
Are there any other methods by which we could make it safer in the city for the bikes and pedestrians to coexist?
I can't think of anything. I mean, the sidewalks are basically 5 feet wide. I think for the most part, there's a lot of common sense and a lot of courtesy. I've been out walking on the sidewalks and I'll hear a bike coming up and they say passing on the right, so you just kind of scooch over. I don't really think that there's an issue that needs to be regulated. Bicycles can also be in the road right away if they're paying attention to traffic code.
Myself, I don't support creating an ordinance for a specific issue like this. I think we have enough laws on the books already, and I don't think we need to create a new one. Unless there's more, let's move on to the leaf millage. Mr. Brown again.
I just, something I brought up to make sure we could, continue to still have that service if it gets to the point where we can't cover it with normal budgeting. I guess, the way it is right now works fine as far as I'm concerned. I just don't want to see it go away. So if it gets to the point where it's not affordable in the budget any longer, then maybe it's something that we need to look at dedicating, at least part of I don't know, 3/4 of a mil or something like that to support it. I mean, if we had something like that right now, it would alleviate that coming out of the budget.
It would, but funding for the street, the leaf pickup has never been an issue. I don't think we've ever considered cutting it. We used to do it, then we went private, then we went to a different private, and now we're back to doing it on our own. The big item might be replacement of one of those leaf trucks in the fairly near future. But that would be a one-time expense. I think operating this service is probably not a financial issue at this point.
Are they both running good? Just saying.
Kurt goes fine.
They're old, they've had issues.
So that's sitting by Twin City over here. Well,
Yeah, the big blue had the clutch burnout on it. So that was in for repairs, and I know we had the small white one running the last few days, and I don't know if Brian went down and picked up the spare that we share with North Muskegon. They said it was available, so I don't know if Brian actually had somebody go pick that one up. I think I only saw one on the roads last couple of days.
Were they inspected before we purchased, or was there an agreement that, apparently there wasn't an agreement that we would cover anything that came up immediately?
We basically bought them as is, based upon inspections by both public works departments. They test drove them, they gave us assurances that when we purchased them, they were in good workmanlike order. That's the proper term.
You got a discount.
I just had, I did have one question here on the wording in this paragraph, and I don't know if, where it says, we anticipate the cost will increase as an in-house expense. Is that from you, Scott, or Scott? Is that?
Oh, no, that's from me. Basically, the information outside of the question, which I think Mr. Brown had brought up, the context of that paragraph is from me. It kind of fluctuates, because a lot of times when we do contractual, it's a contractual amount. So if we get heavy snows and it takes them longer, they're stuck on the hook, much like snow plowing. You can either do snow plowing by event or by season. If you do it by season, heavy winters, you're gonna make money off of the contractor. Light winters, they're gonna make money off of you. So we're hoping that we can stay within that $69,000 range, doing it in-house. But again, we've been doing this just for a few weeks now, and things seem to be going well. We haven't incurred any overtime costs. The guys are staying on top of it. I know some people have said, well, it used to be 12 hours a day for 6 days a week. We've been running 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. That may not always be the case. Right now, the leaves are real easy to pick up because there's not a lot of snow. That really slows down those machines because they'll start clogging up as all that snow and ice gets into the propellers. So
I thought at the last meeting, when we were just discussing this purchase, I think it was 2 meetings ago, I thought it was established that the cost shouldn't be any higher. I don't know that that was stated per se, but.
Well, we don't anticipate that it's gonna go up, but again, we're gonna have to be buying equipment if we stay in the business. That's where our big hits are gonna be. That's just kind of a tickler to let you know that if we do have to start running, more often than not and start incurring overtime, because we didn't incur any overtime costs with contractual employees, or contractual, with contractors.
Service, yeah.
With the contractual services, but if we have to start going overtime, then that's gonna hit our budget. And we might, as you brought up, there might be some other services that might be set on the side. If we have to start running 3 trucks, 12 hours a day to catch up. So we're not saying it's gonna go up, but it could. All weather dependent.
We've been lucky so far.
Very.
And I think just to throw out there, I think they've been doing a great job so far.
Oh, thank you. I'll pass that
I
along.
mean, they've been by my place at least 3 times that I know of.
Well, we had one gentleman said they haven't been down his street at all, so.
It does look like the residents have been doing a great job of getting the leaves right up to the road.
And they blow all over town.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Anything more on the leaf? All right, next up is appointments.
I think I'm the one that brought that up, and I guess I don't feel real good that I did bring it up again. It's an issue that it just bothers me, like I said in the little statement that I wrote. If somebody's in office now, the way that we left it, all they gotta do is say, I want my job back, my seat. As opposed to somebody who's applying for it, who's not on the job now, they've gotta describe their experience that led them to wanna be on there, and also provide a biography, background, things like that, and their work history, their education level, and all that, and I find that to be an impossible, it's apples and oranges. in my opinion. Just because they're on there now doesn't mean they're the most qualified or that they even are qualified.
But, well, they have filled that, they probably filled that out when they applied, right?
Then we should have a copy of that so that we can make a decision when we're voting.
Well, up until this point, we have not required that. I
Oh,
mean,
this
we've
is
had
new.
some, but it's not been a requirement.
Okay, okay.
I think the underlying assumption is that there is more familiarity with somebody who's been on a board, who's worked with staff and with other committee members, than somebody who may just show up that we've never met before. So I think that's why, well, I guess it's, I'm guessing why you guys had set it up that way, but from a staff perspective, again, we have familiarity with those people that have been serving on the board.
Right. But the other side of that is that those people that have been there for 15 years, 20 years, when's the last time they brought a new idea to it? Where's the new eyes and so on? And I think that's a negative. That's my opinion. I don't think you can base the decision just on the fact that they've been on the board so they know how it works. At one time, they didn't know how it worked either. And it doesn't take that long to learn.
Would it be a big deal to have the current board members just fill out a sheet, just to have it on record? Is that an option? I mean, I know we said they don't have to, but they don't want to, they don't have to, and then.
This is your policy. It's been long in the making and is still being tweaked. I guess from my perspective, I don't know if the prior process was really broken. The individuals that have volunteered to serve on the various boards, committees, authorities, and commissions have done an excellent job. That's not to say that there hasn't been a member or two that has been asked to step down. You know, attendance is always one of the big ones. And I'm not discounting the council's concern that you were looking for more involvement. I've heard that, over the years. But I think the old process has worked. And my concern, because we talked about this with chickens, those of you that were on board with chickens, and with vacancies on council. I think there was a point, I think Norm Kittleson was pushing for an ordinance that detailed how vacancies on council would be filled. I prefer to leave it more vague, so that the council members, the 7 of you, can have a little more discretion versus just, if a person checks these 5 boxes, then they're on. If they're 4 out of 5, then they're not on. I like to give you as much discretion as possible. So the more we dial this down, the less discretion the council is going to have in the future. That's my only caution.
Well, just a case in point on the Marina Board. I don't know how many, are any of the people that are on the Marina Board, do they have votes in the Marina? They might, I don't know.
Actually, in the Marina at this point, I don't believe so. I do know that 3 or 4 of them actually own boats. So they do have an idea as to, what a bow and a stern are.
So here's like I say, it's case in point. And I'm not using her name, because I'm a friend of seasonal boater.
Mm-hmm.
She was called up last year, hey, you wanna be on the board again? Okay. She hasn't had a boat there for 6 years. She doesn't live in the city. She's not qualified, according to the rules. Right?
Well, she is qualified. I don't know what rules you're referring to that disqualify
She's
her.
qualified under being a seasonal boater, having a boat in there. She's been on that for 8-10 years, somewhere in that range, hasn't hit a boat for 6 years. Or at least in there, I don't know if she's got one at home or somewhere else. So she no longer uses the marina, she doesn't know the condition of it. What can she contribute? What do people, I didn't know anything about marinas, but it only took one conversation to find out from somebody who's been there for 8 years, to find out something that, that they're not all happy.
Well,
And
I
somebody
would,
that actually does have a vote in there would have something to contribute. There's only 2 meetings a year on that board so far. And I believe there was only 4 members out of 7 that were at that meeting. Get somebody that's paying attention.
well, I would strongly disagree with some of the characterizations that has been made by one voter, one seasonal voter out of 30.
Yeah.
I know there's issues
Okay,
down there.
but she knows more about the current conditions, whether she puts a negative spin on it or whatever. She knows more
Right.
about the current conditions
Right.
than somebody that doesn't use the marina ever.
And I agree with that.
So,
But we've also had, I don't know if we've had I take that back. I now know we have one planning commissioner who had some experience when she was appointed. That's Laura Abramson. There's not like a background that makes you a qualified planning commissioner. We just look for good people that want to get on and serve. And I think probably most of the council members have been on planning commission. A lot of council members start with the planning commission. So it's really hard to judge qualifications when Tifa and Brownfield and Marina really don't have, a resume requirement that says you got to have a degree, 10 years of experience. We just have always looked for good, solid people that are willing to serve. And they kind of grow into the position.
but, that kind of gets back to my other thing. She was asked, "Do you want to do it for another year?" Yeah, okay. There probably wasn't anybody else that asked last year. I don't know that for sure. But somebody else, if we go out and look for people that are actually involved with it and that know what's going on and have some input, I think that's better. And,
And I don't disagree with that, but I think the person you're referring to has done a great job serving on the Marina board. I think the individual's
probably
done
so.
good, but,
I would imagine so.
and I agree with you, somebody who's in the Marina, who's an active, seasonal person would probably have certainly a different take and be in there every day for the most part.
For, in that particular case again, for last year, maybe the years before, it was an easy way to fill a seat, just by calling and saying, "Hey, you want to be it again?" Yeah, okay.
But I think being asked to serve again is based on the previous year's performance. When,
The previous year's, excuse me,
when,
sorry.
when that person has done a good job in the previous year, and you say, okay, I don't have anyone else that's come forward and said, hey, I'd like to be on that board. Then you say, would you like to return to that position? Yes, okay, thank you for your service.
Is that the way it works, though? It seems like in the past, we haven't had any sort of information sheet or a way to collect information from people who are more interested. So it's more, look at the people who are on it, and if they want to return, then we don't look further. And now if we have some information sheets, maybe going forward, we look at those as we're looking to see if we want to refresh the current one. I'm not sure how the process works, but I think in the past it's just been, if we have somebody on it, they're doing a good job, we ask them to return, they say yes, we don't even consider if there's anybody else who might be interested, so.
But it could be as simple as putting a piece of paper up that says, "Hey, we're looking for a current voter, in our marina to be on the board. Are you interested?" It doesn't have to be a big deal. You'd probably get somebody that was interested that way.
When we talk about this, I think it's also important that if we know people who might be interested, or if we talk about it in general, to say, hey, because I've told people who want to get involved, I'm like, well, what would you like to get involved in, like planning or these different, and then I encourage them to go and attend meetings and see, is this something you're interested in, and or is it too boring? You're not gonna show up, So I think we need to kind of keep that in mind too if we, go forward with communications about this. That hey, if you're interested, find out about it and attend meetings and see where you may fit the best.
And I don't know if I was right or not, I think I was, that out of the, is it 7 members on that board, and there were 4
Marina,
there at the meeting. And the other thing with, kind of an aside, is that it seems like you would need more than 2 meetings a year to be very effective on the board there.
well, there's not a whole lot of activity for the Marina Advisory Board. Primarily, they make a recommendation on the rates, and just kind of touch base as far as how the operations are going. And I think that is set up in their bylaws that they meet. I don't know if it says they meet twice a year or at least twice a year. But there's really not a lot of call for a whole lot of meetings for that board.
Well, like if they make some recommendations at the spring meeting, well, I think we should do this and this and this. If they don't meet in the summertime to say, hey, has this been done yet? You could wait until the fall and say, oh, we should have done it. Or, I just seems like there should be at least 3 to me, but that's not what I brought it up for.
Does the Marina Board have a budget, or is that part of TIFA? The Marina is in the TIFA district?
The Marina Board does not have a budget. The city has a separate budget for marina operations. TIFA has historically funded capital improvements at the marina. So that wasn't really a yes or no answer. But
No, but that's where I was going. I wasn't sure how that, if the board were to make recommendations for things that they needed to do, who would have to approve that to get it going?
yeah,
Where would the money
if it's
come from?
if it's a capital one, we typically take that to TIFA, a major financial expenditure. The rates, their recommendation comes to this board.
Can that board ask to meet more often? If, say like the spring one, they have a bunch of things that come up that, they want answers on, before they would meet at the fall one. Can they call a special meeting?
I don't think there's anything that prohibits that.
Yeah. I mean, that's all, I just wondered, if there was something dire that they needed to look at,
Right,
couldn't they just call a special meeting?
they could.
Basically, I think it's staff that takes care of the day-to-day operations of that. And having been on that board, I know each time we meet, it's like, okay, the question I always ask is, do we need to still be in the marina business? And the answer's always been yes. And then we go from there, okay, what are we doing right? What are we not doing right? What needs to be done? And in consultation with the marina manager, because they're the ones that are running it every day. What's working and what's not working? Where do we want to go? And then leave it to staff to see that those things are taken care of. It's an advisory board. We're not there to control it. We're there to be, as you say, eyes on looking at what's going on. And I think the marina is well run. I always hear good things from people about how the marina is run. There's always somebody that's going to complain about something, but I think the marina is clean, safe. I think it's well run, and I think it's run at a fair price, competitive, as much as we can. But
Are both legs of that open now? I mean, I don't know, both piers, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the one was closed for when we had the high water problem.
Yep, they've been open now for 2-3 years, maybe. Brooke does a lot of the booking of the seasonals, that's why I keep looking over to her. Just to expand a little bit on something you said, Mayor, do we need to be in the marina business? Well, no. I mean, basically by charter and state statute, there are minimum things that municipalities have to provide. Marina is not one of them. But that is a safe harbor. The state of Michigan paid to a majority of the cost to build that so that there's a safe place for anybody blown off of Lake Michigan. To get out of the marina business would be difficult because our charter prohibits us from sailing, not sailing with an I, leasing, or disposing or alienating, that's probably something lawyers came up with, any park property without a vote of the people. So the marina, the slips are obviously attached to the park. If we were to say, well, we're gonna lease it to Bob's Marina, and he can make a killing or, take the loss, we would be, I think we'd be hard pressed to do that without going to a vote of the people. Plus, you've got the bathhouse that now kind of has to go with the marina. So it's extremely difficult at this point for us to get out of the business other than just shutting down the marina. And, financially, we're still keeping our heads above water.
Scott?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was it, the marina that was set up with, Hooker Chemical Settlement Funds, that was about $137,000?
Oh, I have to go way
Yeah.
back and look that up. And the establishment of the marina, there's actually petitions circulated opposing.
I think that may have been why, because I think people in Montague didn't like the idea
Yeah.
that we kind of got the money, but yeah, that was about $137,000 to establish. I think the park was there, but I think it was the
Right.
marina maybe,
Yep.
so.
Just a little clarification on the marina.
So the other part of my question concerning the nominations process, if we have two applications sitting in the box, for instance, and somebody that's on the board now says, I would like my job back, and if the mayor nominates them and he's turned down, is the mayor required to nominate somebody else that's already got an application in? And if he's not required to go to the next application, I'm just putting something out there, I don't, he could say, well, I'm gonna nominate this guy again, because I don't want those two choices. And if that happens, ultimately, this guy gets his job back, because the way that the rule is written now, it's automatically extended. And I don't think that's right either.
Well, I think Will can probably
Yeah,
address
on the
that.
first-
That's part of the.
Yeah, the first part, and you sent this around to everybody. You had a chance to read it. On the first part, I don't think that the mayor has an obligation. There's not another process for a second appointment. If the first appointment is rejected, if the mayor doesn't offer another appointment, there's not a process
Okay.
to otherwise create another appointment. You can't force the mayor to do it, and you can't do it, and it would be up to the mayor to make another appointment.
Okay, well, I
So
would
it-
like to make a change to that then.
That-
It's permissible to make a change, correct?
That is a charter provision. That's in the charter.
That the mayor nominates.
Yep. And that's who has the power to nominate is the mayor.
Is
So
it in the
ch-
charter that the thing terminates then? Or
Well, no, but
automatically
it's,
renews?
as sort of laid out here, it's sort of silent on that, but the mayor's the only one that has the authority to nominate people. So to change that and have some sort of another process to require or to have a nomination made if one's not forthcoming would require an amendment to the charter, which has to go to a vote.
This is what I referred to last year when I was accused of being too aggressive, because I used the word either rigged or fixed. I don't remember which it was. But in my opinion, that the way it sits right now, it is, choose your word. And I think one or two of those, one or the other of those needs to change.
But if the nomination is made and by the mayor and the council says, or it's a vote, then that nomination is rejected, that doesn't automatically renew that person.
No.
That would cause a vacancy in the.
Yeah, it would cause a vacancy. Yeah, the person, if somebody's term is expired, that's the only time they're getting renominated, is when their term would expire. If somebody's in a 3-year term and it's year 2, they don't have to get nominated to continue in their term. But if their term is expiring, their term expires, and somebody has to be appointed to that open position. And
But that gets back to the same issue, doesn't it?
right, but it doesn't. But if the person whose term was expired, and if the mayor appointed that person to be for another term, and that appointment was rejected, that just leaves a vacancy for that spot. It doesn't, that person's not gonna automatically get refilled by that person. The person it would have to be approved by the council.
Well, it does, and this is just old language, which is pretty standard almost anywhere.
Right.
It does say members continue to serve until reappointed or replaced.
But I
So it's
don't
not
think-
to interfere with operations by jeopardizing a quorum.
Right.
So I don't know if that would
I
have to
don't know.
be clarified.
Yeah, I
or-
think that would be clarified, because I don't, if their term is up, I think that,
Then they're done.
yeah.
Okay. So we would have to massage that.
But then, are we back to the same place though?
You're still back to a vacancy
Now we
spot.
still have to find a person to fill the spot. It's
Okay,
just-
so suppose we get the same three choices.
I guess it's called compromise. I mean, if the mayor and council can agree and we need to, we've gotta compromise on
Where's
somebody.
compromise? There's no option for compromise.
Well, I mean, you're assuming that you're gonna say no to all the mayoral ones, right? I mean,
No,
it might happen.
I'm not saying all of them, I said there might be a couple like that.
But maybe not, and I guess what I'm saying is that's when maybe common ground is necessary, so.
I think it should be clarified, and then that we should have a vote on that. I know we can't vote here.
Yeah, that's the charter amendment is a whole separate process.
Pardon me?
A charter amendment's a whole separate process. If you wanted to change the appointment process.
We made other changes to the appointment process without.
Right, but
a
not,
charter.
not the specific issue that you were talking about earlier, the one that's identified in the charter, about the mayor making appointments, and what happens if there's a vacancy.
The charter doesn't say that the term should automatically renew.
No, right,
We can
that's a
change it that
separate,
way.
yes.
And I'm guessing we probably would need to
Yeah.
clarify that.
Okay.
If that's the direction a majority council wants to go, I don't know if you have to vote on it, but you can give staff and your
Right.
attorney authority to go ahead and change that and bring it back for approval of a new revised, excuse me, appointment policy.
How soon can we do that?
Well, I need to hear or see 3 other heads go up and down.
I don't wanna spend my time on
I think it still needs tweaking, but, if others don't, then I'll just be in the minority like Alan's in.
If the council doesn't all agree that the mayor's nomination should stand, it should not be an automatic renewal, because then what's the point? If we're just gonna, if the council staff votes it down, it seems like, why are we weighing in if then it's an automatic renewal? I guess I'm
Would
not
that be-
sure what the
voted
clarification
against.
should be.
Yes, I think it's a little vague, but where it talks about shall continue to serve until reappointed or replaced, an appointment, if it's subject to council approval, to me, that's where potentially it's vague, but appointments are subject to approval of the council. And so I think that you can make that argument either way, that whether or not the person is automatically appointed and approved, or if they're just appointed back subject to approval again. And if you wanted to clarify that, you could clarify it either way, to say that the person continues on the committee, or that there's a vacancy at that point, if the person is not approved. That point could probably be clarified in the second paragraph of this appointments policy.
Because you could lawyers could probably argue this 100 different ways.
Yeah, sure.
Because if somebody's name is up for reappointment and that's rejected by council, then their reappointment is nullified. Which I think would probably result in more of a vacancy than a continuation.
I think that,
Yes.
that's,
So then a vacancy would have to be filled with another appointment.
would have to be filled another appointment, which
I
if
mean, the mayor
it,
couldn't just say, well, I'm not gonna appoint anybody.
Well, the
Leave
mayor
it empty.
could choose a mayor. I'm trying not to, trying to stay neutral on that.
Amen.
He or she, mayor, could decide not to submit a second name.
correct. And that's what the charter is silent, that appointment, the authority to make an appointment is with the mayor, and there's nothing in there that talks about what happens if the mayor doesn't make an appointment. There's not a backup procedure for having appointments made.
So if you have an odd number of people on a board to preclude having ties, and then all of a sudden one of them's gone, you could have ties on all kinds of things on that board then possibly.
Yep.
I don't think
Chaos.
historically, we haven't really had that problem. It seems like most mayors like to fill the boards and commissions.
Historically, we haven't had a problem. As City Manager said, the system's not broke, it's worked very fine for the last 20 years. And now we're fighting over something that's worked fine for a long time. I don't understand what the point is.
Well, number one,
It is personal.
number one, there are people in the city, residents, who don't like the way things are going.
That's a normal
And-
situation.
Right. But the thing is, one of the silliest arguments you hear, I gotta be careful what I say. That's the way we've always done it, is not a good reason. And I've heard that so many times, I don't, it's not a good reason, that's the way we've always done it.
I don't think that's
I don't
what's
know how
being,
else to say it.
I don't think that's what's being said. I think what's been said is that the system has worked. We've tweaked the system. I don't know how long we have spent trying to tweak and retweak. I mean, if this is what council wants to spend more time on, I'll have to do it, but I don't know I don't understand what's so pressing about this. I feel like if people want to participate, and they let us know by attending meetings and things. Most of the time, I think that there's a place for them. And then also, I think we've also had a lot of people who've been very influential, just coming to comment and come to meetings. That's a way to participate. So,
And as far as being personal, I felt it was personal last year. The way I was treated when I asked about being on the board.
could we get back to the discussion? I don't want to engage in personal discussions here.
Is there any further discussion on this?
Where are we at with it? Are we looking at it again? Are we tweaking it? Are we just leaving it the way it is? What are we doing?
I'd like to see it left the way it is.
You're under the opinion that there hasn't been a problem in the last 20 years or more, and it doesn't need fixing. I'm the one that originally brought it all up in the first place because I think it does need fixing. I don't, so I'd just like to know where we're going with it. If we're going anywhere with it, or if it's already written the way it is, then, so be it.
If I may, Your Honor.
Please.
We do have an adopted appointment policy, which is effective as of now. I think there are probably 3 questions that are before council tonight. One is, would require charter amendment, as mentioned by Will. The other is the requirement of existing board members to fill out an application. I don't think that's really a big deal. We could require that as well. Probably don't even need, it could be standard operating procedure versus, coming back with another appointment policy. And then I think the third is the issue that Mr. Brown brought up, which hasn't been discussed yet. But I think we can go through, sorry, raking leaves and fall allergies are getting the better of me a little bit. But we were looking for a consensus of majority to change the second sentence in that second paragraph about clarifying whether or not a current member does or does not retain their seat if they are not replaced. Is that a decent way of saying it?
Yep.
So now I'm looking for consensus from four of you, I guess, to
I think
go ahead
that
and
piece needs to be clarified. I don't think we need to rewrite the policy or rehash the whole thing, but I think that, for me, that piece needs to be clarified.
I agree.
this is where I turn it back over to the mayor.
All right. We need to move on to the next subject. Country Club Walkway. Does anyone have any opinion on that?
I didn't know it existed until this came up.
I knew
I
that
don't-
walk. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I don't know how many people did know it existed. I know I used to take care of one of the lawn of one of the houses, and it had a sidewalk on both sides of it, and I never understood why until now. Because one of them wasn't actually a sidewalk, for the houses, it was a sidewalk that was the city's, I guess.
I used to ride my bike up and down those because my house was on Collier, so I knew about them. I thought they were kind of cool, but I don't really see that we need to keep them. Because I don't know if the city really needs them.
I knew that the stairway was public for a long time, and nobody used it, but I didn't know that it went all the way to Mears. But I don't really see any reason for it to remain public or for us to maintain it. I would just as soon, however it works out, give it to the adjacent landowners.
Yeah, I think Scott and I were talking about this a little bit ahead of time. I think we should, these GIS maps are great, but for something like this, you really want to take a look at the actual plat, the city chart, the city plat and the blocks, and see what's there, and before you can start making decisions about where it's gonna go. And so, which we could have for the next meeting, I could figure, Scott and I could talk about that, to take a look and see what's there, because otherwise you're gonna create title problems and stuff. I think we should, that's what I would recommend doing with that first, figure that out, exactly what's there.
Sounds good.
So we don't really know that we have ownership of it or anything.
I could not find anything in the city records, and we have a pretty good filing system for all easements, street right-of-ways, just straight out ownership of parks, but I could not find anything. And if you go to the county GIS, if you were to hit any one of those lots, it'll bring up a legal description, which matches, what you see on the map and the property owner. That is just kind of a no man's land where nothing came up on the county GIS as far as.
And that's where it should show up on the plat map. The original plat should show
So-
that.
It's not like it's part of somebody's lot.
It might have been an
And we just
alleyway.
put it there with their permission,
My,
like
my
8 years ago, or?
Yeah, my best guess is when they developed that subdivision, the White Lake Terrace addition, they platted it all out and then just left a 5-foot strip for a common access down to the lake. But again, there's no, at least on my city manager's search, which is not like a title company, we find no record of us owning it. So.
Would it fall back on the state then?
No, probably not on the state, because not that long ago, I can't remember who was on council at that point, we found an orphan piece of property down on Lake Street. between a city-owned parcel and a privately owned parcel. And it was a small piece of property that there was no legal records of whatsoever existing. Obviously, it was there. So by circuit court, we sued the adjacent property owner, and they were part of it. And basically, we sued each other, but we had a gentleman's agreement before the lawsuit started that we would get a third, and that person would get 2/3. But we still had to take it to court, so the court officially recognized it. We had it surveyed as an existing piece of property and the disposition of that property. So that might have to be a step in figuring out this piece of property. The Public Works Department would be happy if the city no longer had it.
I have a question. Where are the stairs down to Lake Street?
Pardon me?
Where are the stairs down to
There-
Lake Street?
They're a little easier to see now that we had a windstorm, but they're probably a couple of 100 feet north of, there's a new set of stairs, wooden stairs that have been built. We're a couple of 100 feet north of that.
Okay, so on the other side of Johnson?
Of Johnson?
Well, Penny down Johnson. Yeah, the road that went down, Collier that went down to Lake Street, and then on the other side, it seems like she's got new wooden stairs down.
Yes. And this is north of that.
And that's north of
Yep.
that. Do you know if anybody uses it?
Very rarely. Apparently nobody bikes down there anymore. But I do know that, I think it's the Clark family, they own 3 parcels on the top, and they're the ones who have purchased that piece of property down on the Lake Street from the city. And they've asked, as well as the Corteses, I don't know if I included their letter, I think they did, to maintain it. And that's when, we took a look at it to see what the expense would be. So I guess the first step is to find out if we actually have ownership.
It doesn't go through to the lake.
It goes all
No,
the way.
right to Lake Street.
Right
Lake
there.
Street.
Okay, I'm just checking on that.
My suggestion would be that we don't need it now, but in 20, 30 years, there might be a good reason to have it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rather not turn it over to the folks, but also to alleviate insurance, take the stairs out if you can without spending a fortune. Put signs at the top, at the bottom. Walk at your own risk or whatever, put some kind of a sign there that gives us some kind of coverage in case of an accident.
I think we probably have that without doing signage, and signs are always beneficial, I guess, but especially with sidewalks, there is a presumption of governmental immunity. There are some standards, basically a lot of it falls back on if there's a known defect, the city failed to cure in a timely fashion, then we're not liable.
Who knows what might be 30 years out, and I think we ought to retain ownership, if we could. We probably can just assume it, unless somebody can prove otherwise.
Well, we're not a road commission, I'm not gonna go there.
Okay.
I'm not gonna assume any road ends.
I myself do support keeping it. I've
Oh, well,
used it many times. Last year I rode my bike down it.
Stairs, steps.
Not the steps, but the way, all the way 2 mirrors. It goes all the way through 2 mirrors.
Okay, I've never done that, so
So,
well, we just had a phone a friend, Brian Armstrong apparently is watching the council meeting. His comment was that there is an abandoned water main underneath that right away, so maybe that is why it exists. Getting rid of it would be a little problematic because
yes.
public rights of way, we have to vacate them, and it's split between the adjacent property owners. So now you're gonna go through and probably 15 property owners will have an extra 3 feet and a little closer to their neighbors. Sometimes a 5-foot buffer between neighbors is a good thing.
What kind of shape are the stairs?
They're passable.
We chance to go over and
Yeah.
walk on the
It's
stairs.
passable. You can go up them.
Yeah, but they're in need of repair.
Yeah,
Or
I didn't know if
replacement.
this all came about because the stuff needs repaired now and.
Well, it was primarily the windstorm. It had actually uprooted most of the sidewalk at the top of the stairs when one of the trees went over. So we fixed that as best as we could. And then again, the Clarks This is becoming kind of like their family vacation area. I think there's 4 or 5, maybe not 5, 4 generations that come up here during the summer. And again, they have property down on Lake Street, so much as we discussed having more access down to Lake Street from the First Street parking lot alley, you know, they would, it'd be difficult for a lot of those people to get down to their waterfront property without this.
Quick question for you, Steve, when you go through there, it feels kind of private to me. I mean, the last time I went through there a little bit, I just, you know, I wonder if we could talk to more people and see what they think, because it just, I almost feel like I'm in their yards when I go through there.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
I still think it's a good thing for it to have that public access. And as Tom
You
said, we
mean
don't know what's gonna happen in the next decade or two. That may be a real good thing to have for the community.
Yeah, down to Lake Street.
Down to Lake Street.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about putting a stairway down to Lake Street
From
from the parking lot, so.
the parking lot behind.
Does that sidewalk go right through the middle of that park?
No, I mean, it goes through the park without, I mean,
It
it's
stops and starts.
on both sides.
There's places where there is no sidewalk, it's just a path.
Yeah.
Oh,
We'll, we'll bring this back to you with more information.
We need to get on to public comment.
Yeah.
Is there any public that would like to make a comment at this point concerning anything? Please step up to the podium. Yes.
First off, thank you for the city council meeting today. My name's Tristan Sanchez. I turned 20 this year, and I've been 2 years out of school, but this is my first time ever coming in here and meeting you guys. And I've had no clue what you guys have done for many, many years, and I feel that it is a missed opportunity for students to not get to know you guys. I know there is a class that comes in here, but I can guarantee you there's a lot of children that are just coming in here to get the credit and go home. I'm wondering if there's maybe an opportunity to get involved in the schools more, because I personally would have liked to know more about what was happening in my town that I grew up in, that I kind of just learned things as they came up. I'm not sure if this is something to be speaking on, what have you.
Well, we're always happy to have anyone come and participate and see what we do here. We love to have students. At one point, we used to have a high school student rep on the board, which I would certainly like to see a return to that. The more people become aware and involved in the governmental operations of their community, I think the better it is for all of us.
And I agree.
Certainly welcome everyone to come and have their say with us.
I'm wondering maybe if somebody, a part of your board could actually get a hold of the schools and maybe go do like an assembly or something with the schools and kind of explain a little bit more what you do, if you guys have time to do that. Because as I said, that knowledge, it's very important, especially for us younger people when we don't know what's going on in the world and everybody older is just telling us the world works. I don't know how the world works, and you not explaining it doesn't help.
I have a question for you. We did talk about this briefly, about how we always have Montague school students here, and why don't we have Whitehall High School? And do you know, can you get a hold of somebody at Whitehall High School what class would that be?
That would probably be government.
Government, if you could get a hold of that person and tell them that what you're saying, I think that would be better coming from you maybe even.
I would absolutely love to do that for you guys.
Oh, great.
Because as I said, growing up around here, I've not gotten a chance to even meet a whole lot of people, because a lot of it comes from, they want to talk to me about what's going on in the government, and I can't give my opinion on it because I don't know.
And I've asked the school superintendent numerous times for closer involvement between the schools and government, and volunteered to come to school anytime that he would ask. And I haven't heard anything, so it has to be a mutually agreed upon thing. So.
Okay. I'll see what I can potentially do with the teacher. Thank you very much for your guys'
Thank
time.
you. All right, it is 6 o'clock. Call this regular council meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First up is the consent agenda. Yes, you're right, thank you, I'm sorry. Approval of the agenda.
I'll move for the approval of the November 12th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, moved in second, is there any discussion on this? All right, all those in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. We have approval of the agenda. Next is the consent agenda.
Make a motion to go on with the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, is there any discussion on the consent agenda?
I have one question. Page 4-8 on accounts payable for the Playhouse. There's $204 at Pizza Hut for a meal for cast members. I would like to know why we are using taxpayers' dollars to have a meal for cast people. I don't ever remember seeing this in the 6 years that I've been on the board before. I just,
Typically, since Brooks does a lot of the finances, we have done this every year for the cast. It's just part of the expenses. Not for every cast of every production, but for this one, with the White Lake Youth Theater.
I had a question, I can't find it right now, but it was a term, the purchase card vendor, what? You didn't mention the page number, does that sound familiar?
7 of 8,
The
page
City
7.
Visa.
Oh, that's just the Visa fees?
Yeah, we just break it down by individual purchases, but it all gets paid at once to the
Okay.
credit card.
That's pretty simple.
Any further discussion on the consent agenda? All those in favor of the consent agenda, say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. Consent agenda is approved. Next up, we have a message from the mayor, council, and city manager. Let's start with the city manager.
Yes, work began on the Zeller Road, street improvements. That's going quite well. We're hoping that it will be finished by the end of the week or early next week. You know, the asphalt availability is, kind of the thing that'll be the finishing touches, obviously, on top. So that's going well. And we did have a police vehicle involved in an accident. Our adjuster insurance rep came out Friday and they did total the vehicle. Chief has contacted Fremont Ford, because Fremont Ford, we do a state purchasing. We've done that forever with the police cruisers. They have a vehicle available, but it's, that's gonna get to that. Chief doesn't want me to forget the deal he found. So Fremont Ford, through the state purchase, has a vehicle available, but it would still need to have a lot of wiring done to it. He also found that emergency services, that does a lot of rehab for all sorts of fire trucks, ambulances, police cars, they have a vehicle ready to go. Apparently it was ordered by another local municipality who, once it arrived, decided they didn't want it. So Roger will be giving prices on all of those. We'll bring it back to council in 2 weeks. But that vehicle will be road ready to go within a day or two. The one from Fremont Ford would probably be a couple of months in order to get it on the road, to get all of the 5 or 6 months. Once we get all of the hardware and software installed. There's a lot of things that go into squad cars now, especially with mobile data terminals that go into every one of them. So,
What vehicle did we lose?
uh,
Age-wise, wasn't the new hybrid one, was it?
No,
no,
it was the 2020, had about 96,000, almost 100,000.
and the city was not at fault. The vehicle actually hit a car that pulled out in front of them from a stop sign.
Officer, okay?
Officers okay, the 2 passengers were okay.
Yep.
Everybody was fine.
Steve, what do you got tonight?
I have nothing tonight.
Okay.
Just the same kudos I threw out before for the guys doing leaf vac. I mean, I think they're doing an excellent job. As good, if not better, than the service that we had previously, so.
I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that.
I had 3 things, quick, I guess, maybe not so quick. At the north end of Tannery Bay, they announced that they were gonna start moving dirt and stuff, and I walked by there and looked. They've shoved a lot of railroad ties down, and the topsoil from under the railroad, that's pretty polluted stuff. And according to the, you're not, if you're gonna do fill, you're supposed to be using clean fill, correct? I was real disappointed to see that they're not taking care, not paying attention to it. Similarly, right next door, as you had noted, Keenan Marina hadn't done anything. It's worse now than it was the last time I looked. And I'm just wondering if we can flat out sue them for repairs or whatever, or cost to reinstall that back to wetlands.
We'll answer that, but I did talk to Nick. He's the manager for Keenan. And Will has drafted and sent out a letter, kind of a little more of an arm twisting. But Keenan has started to remove things. They've removed some of the cradles. And I've been given assurances that early next week they'll really get on it pretty aggressively.
But you would eventually, the city would eventually sue them for trespass, and if they had to remove the stuff, charge them back for that and all that kind of stuff. Potentially treat it as abandoned, all that.
Yeah. And the last thing, there's been people fishing down at the marina, and the bathrooms are locked. I thought we were gonna get a outhouse there. Was that not the case? I looked for an outhouse. I couldn't see one.
We haven't done that in the past, I think.
I know. We did talk about it earlier.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
We'll have to check on that because it hasn't been that long since we closed down the bathrooms. Maybe a couple of weeks.
I thought we decided that it wasn't cost effective, that there wasn't that many fishermen down there to warrant the cost.
I would have to double check primarily in the budget whether or not we budgeted for that.
That's all.
I'd like to echo Scott's kudos to the leaf picking up. I know it's a new process and it's a learning curve, and it seems, other than the breakdowns, which is, can't help that, they're doing a good job. So I want to also express my thanks for that. I'm sure they'll get to the streets they haven't gotten to yet. Also had the opportunity to attend the 10th anniversary of the delisting of White Lake, and I'm sure Tanya will say some more words about that, but it was very educational. They had several folks come in, you put it together, so thank you for that. It was very, very educational. Was it recorded? So that we,
Yes.
okay, good.
Kim and Koto's recorded this.
That'd be great if you could share that with us. It was really good, and it was well attended.
I appreciate you coming.
Yes.
Okay, so yesterday was very well attended, maybe 40 people, 30 people? And at Book Nook, they were very good hosts, and Mark Muir, who still owns the building, donated some money for a few snacks, and the Book Nook folks brought in music after we were done, and we had both mayors open the event, which was reminiscent of our 2014 event, and the White Lake Association, the Honest Water Resources Institute is doing a new water quality testing, and they're putting in a smart buoy in the lake, so that's gonna be kind of cool. It's good to see them carrying on, and then, the Conservation District came, Scott talked about the coastal wetlands and 164 acres and, potential restoration of that going forward. The chamber was there and gave an award to the lake, I guess, for reaching this milestone. And it really, I'm glad for the suggestion to set up a committee. We didn't need a committee because it just kind of fell together. But it was good to have all these people in the same room, and we talked about maybe doing this as an annual event. Just because it was good to hear everybody who's still working on behalf of the lake, so that's good. The senior surveys November 15th is the deadline for them to come back, and this is what we did so far.
Excellent.
Yes, and it seems like most of them came back by mail, so thanks to the staff for getting it into the water bill. We do have an online version, we'll have to check and see, but I think this is mostly where we're getting to. People are pretty interested in the topic, so once, after November 15th is done, I'll pull the committee back together and we'll start taking a look at them. What do you think, Scott?
Looking good so far.
I know. It's exciting to see that people cared enough to send it back, so very exciting. And then one last thing, Scott, I wanted to follow up on, remember when we applied for free sustainability help? What's going on with that?
The restart,
Yes.
thought I sent something out. We got the studies back probably about a week ago, kind of involved. So staff is still kind of going through those to see how we can start implementing some of the recommendations.
So it's primarily, you asked for help on energy efficiency, right?
Correct.
Okay. When can we take a look at the information? Are the studies something we would be able to look at?
Oh, absolutely. I can have those in your next packet.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you so much.
I want to reiterate the kudos to our DPW. They're doing an excellent job with the leaf pickup, but they're also doing a great job installing all the new Christmas decorations. I'm looking forward to the beautiful look our town will have with all these new lights. So, with that, let's move on to public comment. This is where people will have a chance to make a public comment. Please hold it to 3 minutes if you can. Anyone who wants to make a comment, step up, give your name.
Yeah, Marketing House, 1421 Warner. I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but since Brian is supposedly listening, I got 2 trees still down right in front of my house from the storm. They're laying next to the road in a big pile. They came down. It'd be nice if they can clean them up. Also, the one on the corner of Warner and Benston that got pushed out of the way by the construction company, got pushed up against the woods. It's pretty nasty looking. It'd be nice if they clean that up too. They're doing a good job of the leaves, but not the trees.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? All right, with that, we'll move on to old business. I don't believe we have any pending old business. So we will move on to new business. Resolution 37, TIFA public hearing.
I'll make a motion to set Tuesday, December 10, 2024, 6 p.m. to consider the resolution amending the plans and the hearing be noted as required for a public hearing on the TIFA amended plans. 2437.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Is there any discussion on this?
I'm wondering how much public announcement we'll make for that. I'd like for a bunch of people to show up for that.
Well, we have to advertise it in the local newspaper twice, and I believe the first one probably already went out. We also have to notify everybody within the Tifa district. There's a lot more. There's a lot more notification requirement with the new act in 2018. And we'll have it on our website as well as our Facebook page.
And which, is that in the Beacon that they run it? What is it in, yeah?
Yeah.
Also on page, pretty minor thing, but on the general section here, page 2, says there will be 11-member board, 7 members will be appointed, but it doesn't say anything about the other 4. There's wording in that, to that effect, in the LDFA. I imagine it's just half a sentence left out or something.
Yep.
Anything else?
Nope.
I believe all this information that we have is also in the public's packet available. Is that-
The plans went out to all the other taxing jurisdictions. The plan itself will be, if it's not already, on our website as well as available to the public, but not
Yeah, this
necessarily part of the
resolution
mailing.
that has all the information that is available, that the public can go to the website, city website, and read what we have to read. Any further discussion on this?
Basically, what we're doing tonight is just setting the public hearing, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, roll call please.
Sickinga,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes,
Zemer,
Yes.
Hillebrand,
Yes,
Kabala, Salter.
Yes. That resolution is approved. Next is resolution 2438, LDFA amended plans.
make a motion to approve the LDFA amended plans as written.
we're not approving the plan, we're setting the meeting,
Public hearing.
right?
Well,
Correct.
yes,
This is the same as the last one, setting.
So just modify your statement, Scott, your motion. And I'll second.
you got me so confused, you know. Make a motion to approve LDFA amended plans for a public hearing on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 at 6 p.m.
Second.
There, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion on this? Once again, this is just setting the date for the public hearing. Being no further discussion, roll call please.
Brown,
Yes,
Hillebrand,
Yes,
Sickinga,
Yes.
Zemer,
Yes.
Kabala,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes. Resolution is approved. Next is resolution 39, Zeller Storm road bids.
I'll move resolution 2439, Zeller Road bids to the floor.
second.
Been moved in second. Is there any discussion on this?
I'm wondering, this is extra over what we approved at the last meeting then for repairing this?
Correct. What you approved last time was repairs to the top exterior of the sewer pipes, backfilling and replacing the road. What this does is this brings in plumbers. They will go through and they'll clean that pipe and inspect the inside and make a determination as to what repairs are required with that.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that last time, whether they need to go in there and do that.
It's
lining.
either a patch or the full lining.
Right, okay.
So this is the cleaning and the recommendation for repair.
Correct.
Is there any further discussion? Roll call please.
Sickinga,
Yes.
Hillebrand,
Yes,
Brown,
Yes.
Zemer,
Yes.
Kabala,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes, that resolution is approved. Next up is school resource officer. Is this a resolution or is this a, could you give us a little heads up on this, Scott?
Yeah, basically, this is, years back, maybe years and years back. The city and the schools participated in a grant for adding a police officer to the schools. And the grant had basically an agreement with it. We haven't had an agreement written and formalized in quite a few years. We've just kind of been going along with school giving us a reimbursement. This actually formalizes it so that we've, got all the T's crossed and I's dotted. And the school's interim superintendent, which I will have to make a change on this. CJ Van Weering has already signed this, so we've got the school's approval back already, pending your approval. And I don't know if it requires a roll call. I mean, we're not spending any money, but I brought it to you because it's a contractual obligation in a sense.
So we would need a motion to approve the memorandum.
You want a motion to approve it?
Yes,
To approve it?
yes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Been moved in second. Is there any discussion on this?
I had a question on, there's not much specificity in there, are we required to do a certain number of hours a week or days a year, anything like that? If a dispute comes up, I don't see that happening, but.
Well, there's a
For
clause for dispute resolution.
Or how many nighttime events, anything like that?
No, that's always worked out primarily between the chief, the school resource officer, and the school district. I think there's, I don't think he's involved in the Friday night football games. I think that's always extra.
Okay.
But, yeah, we kind of left it so that we can meet the needs as they arise. But I think Travis does basically spend not 8 hours a day, 7 hours a day in the schools. He rotates among the 4 buildings.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this? All right, all those in favor of this say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Yeah, the school resource officer agreement. Next up is public comment. This is where the students step up and give their name and their class and in order to get their paper signed.
How can I say my name?
Your name and your teacher, please.
My name is Wyatt Greyway and my teacher is Joe Brunson.
Thank you.
Maybe that mic's on.
Just speak up.
My name is Miguel Ambries. My teacher is Joe Brunson.
Thank you.
My name is Charlie Pease and my teacher is Joe Brunson.
Thank you.
I'm Lynn and I'm in Joe Brunson's class.
Thank you.
I'm Grace Rolowitz and I'm also in Joe Brunson's government class.
Thank you all very much for showing up. After we conclude the meeting, we will sign your papers. You can sit down now, please. All right, this is the last opportunity. Anyone in this room, please step forward.
Hi, my name's Tristan Sanchez again,
Yes.
so you guys are aware. I'm curious because my daughter was born a little over a month ago, and eventually, before I know it, she's going to start school. How exactly are resource officers appointed? Is that something that is done at the police station? Do they be appointed by you guys? I'm curious with everything coming up with my daughter and everything. So
I believe we leave that to the police department to appoint that person.
okay,
As with many things, we rely on, the council relies on staff to give us their best recommendation. For the most part, our job is to support our staff.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have anything they wanna say? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you all for coming.